Welcome to a new episode of Girl, Geek, and a Gay. I'm Jose, and with me is the adorable Jaime.
Hi's.
How you doing today?
I'm still good. Yes.
So last week, I was on the phone with a friend, right?
Okay.
And I was putting my earbuds in as I'm crossing the street.
Okay.
And one of my earbuds fell.
Okay.
Right? So I'm looking at I don't try to catch it because I know if I try to catch it, I'm just going to smack it into
Traffic?
wherever the fuck else.
Oh.
Right?
You were walking? Is that what you said?
I was walking across the street.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was walking to my truck.
Oh, okay.
So I parked my car, and then I was crossing the street to get into my truck
Got it.
for work. It's like, it's not late, and it's a road that isn't often traveled,
Okay.
right? So I drop my earbud, and I'm looking at it, right? It hits the ground, bounces, and disappears.
For real?
Just fucking disappeared.
What
And I was looking right at it. Where the fuck did it go? So I spent maybe a good 15 minutes, and I have a very, very strong powered flashlight
Okay.
that I use for work.
Uh-huh.
So I turn on this flashlight, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I saw where it fell. I was looking directly at it when it hit the ground.
Yeah.
I saw it bounce, and then it disappeared.
What the fuck?
I don't know where the fuck it's at. I found it eventually behind me, under another car.
Yes.
And I was like, how? Just how the fuck does that happen?
Yeah.
So, glitch in the matrix, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is our topic of our tackle this week,
Yeah, I
right?
figured it would be perfect to talk about simulation theory, especially after having the Mandela effect
Yes.
recently.
Yes. Yes. And that's funny. And I guess on the subject of simulation theory. Is that what you said?
Simulation theory.
Okay. That kind of reminds me of otherworldly theories, right? Like where, for example, you viewing, like our view, right? Mm-hmm. Like everything in front of us exists, right? But technically everything behind us doesn't exist, mm-hmm. Because we don't know if it's actually still there. We don't know if it even exists. It doesn't, because we can't see behind us at this point. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a really mind fuck type of situation.
It's the whole, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound?
Exactly. Well, for example, your earpiece fell, mm-hmm. and apparently it fell behind you somehow.
Fucking blooped the fuck out.
It didn't exist to you in that moment. Yeah. Because it fell behind you. You didn't know it was there.
So
it was gone.
For those who don't know what simulation theory is, it's more of a simulation hypothesis, mm-hmm. because we've been through what a scientific theory is, mm-hmm. But it can't be proved. But its purpose is it proposes that all of our existence is a simulated reality. Mm-hmm. It was popularized by Nick Bostrom. And yeah, like what you were saying, when we're playing a video game, for instance.
Yeah.
The only thing because some people will be like, well, it's impossible because there's so much that needs to be rendered, and it's like, well, things only need to be rendered that are being observed.
Exactly. That's the whole the what do you call those engines in video games?
Unreal Engine.
Unreal Engines, don't they they only create to a certain distance, mm-hmm. in the video game world? Yeah,
and even things that you can't see that are far aren't being rendered to the full capacity.
Right.
So there was this thing that they observed with and I think it's atoms, and they're trying to pass these atoms through this sheet of metal, right? So as they're watching them, it looks like they're passing through in waves, right? Mm-hmm. It looks like that's how they're passing through. But once they observe them closely, it looks like they're actually going through in pieces.
Mm.
So
like they deform.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's like, oh well, once you're actually watching them, they behave differently than when you're not, because one takes more rendering power than the other. So recently, there was someone on Minecraft that built the entire observable universe.
Whoa!
So you could go see this. It's on YouTube.
That's crazy.
And someone just built the universe with Minecraft.
Yeah.
Like this kid, I think he's like 18 years old. He was like, man, I would spend 8 hours in a room trying to build the curve of a black hole.
Oh my god!
But 3 months. It took him 3 months to build the entire observable universe in a video game.
Wow.
So the fact that we have technology here that can basically do that just leads you to believe, well, what if that is what this is?
What if we are that? Well, it reminds me, like, I was a huge fan of The Sims growing up. And it just gets you thinking, right? Like your decision, like in The Sims, obviously you create like a character, or you create families, and you can control them to do different things at different times, right? So it just really gets people thinking, like, hey, like, what if that's what all our decisions are not really made by us, but by a machine, you know? Or The Sims was a lot of fun. You know, but it does give you a perspective, almost like a god, quote unquote, perspective, right? Because you're controlling this character, this person.
You don't really control the character though, right? You like control the events that happen around them, and they react towards that.
Well, you can, like, for example, you can get them to cook, so you click on them and they go cook. Okay. Yeah, so you do control the character.
I see what you're played it.
Yeah, so you do control the character. There's also things that happen. Well, things happen on their own too, like a fire starts. You know, if for example, the character's not a good cook, then they could accidentally create a fire, right? But you you have been there. Yep.
Multiple times.
You know, or like there's like a robbery that happens in the game. Like a thief shows up at your house, and then you can you can wake yourself up. You can wake up the character in that moment, right? To kind of be ready to fight the thief or something like that. But it's just like, it really honestly gets you thinking. It's like, dang, like, what if everything that's happening right now is either created, right? And then somebody's making me decide what I should do in this situation. So, or something's making me decide. The Matrix.
Yeah.
Even.
Well, what if this is all, what if simulation theory really does explain something like the Mandela effect?
Yeah.
You know, all of us have these residual memories, and maybe somebody just clicked on restart from checkpoint, right? And when we just and deja vu could also be explained by that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like simulation theory could explain a lot of the unexplainable things.
Yeah.
It's something that can't be really tested for,
right?
So it's always going to be a hypothesis.
Yeah. It's true.
It's not
always going to be unexplained for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just like I feel like a lot of the things are just residuals, you know? Like maybe we did just restart from a checkpoint.
Yeah.
You know, somebody was like, oops, I fucking accidentally killed Nelson Mandela. Hold on, let me restart this real quick.
Yeah.
And all these people, like, a glitch in the code that are like, wait, didn't this just happen?
Yeah.
Or like certain games that remember you dying in certain places,
right?
And they'll lower the difficulty or have enemies react differently to kind of make things more doable.
Yeah.
Or what if the simulation is just to see how humans react in a boiling Earth?
Yeah.
Or to test out nuclear winters.
Yeah. Well, if you think about like being gamers, right? Every time you play a video game, you're controlling a character, right? And like you said, there's certain times where you die in the game and you just get brought back to life in a different, and then you already know more of what to do in those situations too, right? Like you already understand how to then approach the situation. I think we talked about this on the show too, and that also reminded me of an episode of Black Mirror. Where I think I don't know if we talked about this on the show. I think we might have just talked about it. I can't recall. Anyway, there's people on a dating app, right? But this dating app is so definitive that it tells you, like, when you meet somebody, right, how long you're gonna date them for, how long you guys are gonna be together, and then how it doesn't tell you how it's gonna end, but it says like 3 months or like 6 years or like 10 years or like literally long term, right?
Yeah.
So they date, they live their lives, you know, the 3 months and then they break up or something. Sometimes people are like more permanent, like longer term, right? Like 10 years and stuff like that, right? So what's happening though in the as they're doing the dates, it ends up being, like, kind of a spoiler for the episode. It ends up being that the people that, like, it was a girl and a guy that met, right? Because of the dating app, and they still wanted to be together, right? Even though there was a limitation of the time, but it turns out that they were just a test. They weren't the actual couple, but they were a test for that actual dating app that shows whether they're going to be connected for life or not.
Okay, I get
you. You know, so it became like
like a self-fulfilling prophecy type thing.
Yeah, in a sense, right? Except they were a program as opposed to just
they were a simulation.
They were a simulation. They weren't real. Yeah, they ended up like the way they were a simulation in the app. You know, that ends up telling you, this is your long-term partner.
This is going to go.
Yeah, this is your long-term partner. So because they fought through it and they ended up, you know, becoming the program to stay together, that's essentially what how the information was received by the app and partners people up. Yeah. So it was really interesting to see kind of like their like life, and then how they would split up and then got back together and then still wanted to be together after so many years, or why they broke up type of thing. They didn't understand why it was an end, things like that. And then in the end, they end up being just like a simulation, you know, like for the actual couple. That's interesting. It was a good episode. It was a really good episode.
I'm very iffy about Black Mirror.
Yeah,
because I think I've seen 2 good episodes.
Yeah,
and I've watched like 8 of them, and I'm just like that. Not worth it. I'm not gonna put up with trash for.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of it's been good. But a lot of it always seems like simulations.
Yeah, like the first episode was they wanted a politician to fuck a pig.
Oh yeah.
I don't care. And the second episode where it was like Daniel Kaluuya when he's on a bike and he has to do things for like credits.
I don't remember at this point.
It wasn't good. And then the third one was with Jodie Whittaker.
Oh, okay.
With her, like your eye records everything you see, and you can play back memories. I didn't care.
Can you block people? Oh yeah. And then her boyfriend ends up finding out.
The one with the blocking people. That one was interesting.
Yeah, there's some good like some interesting episodes for sure. I get it though. It's not for everybody.
Yeah,
you know. But that simulation one, I was really caught off guard. Like it was very
No, yeah, that sounds good. The one I did like was the one about with U.S. agent. What's his name?
Yeah, the guy
from Kurt Russell's kid. Wyatt? I
don't fucking know.
The one that played U.S. agent. On Hawkeye.
I get who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yeah. Wow.
The one with him in the haunted house. That one was it. That one was good.
I don't remember that one.
Oh well, that's so far the only one I liked really. But there's theories that there are reasons that we can't go into places. Yeah, we just started talking about Black Mirror at some point.
Well, because it was a simulation situation.
But there are theories of why we can't go into certain places, and they're more like borders. You know, like video games have borders, like you can't cross into certain places because we can't render this.
Yeah,
and maybe that's what the ocean is. You know, like they can't render what the core of the Earth really looks like, so they have all of these blocks of us getting.
Are you saying flat Earth?
Oh yeah, flat Earth is definitely a thing.
Got it. There's a dome. Got it.
Fucking flat Earth, man. But also they ask, like, is it possible to simulate consciousness? And this goes back to what we mentioned in the last episode, where it comes to like Detroit Become Human, like I mentioned that, or we don't even have to go into science fiction, but something like Lambda, which was the Google program that the guy fell in love with because he thinks it's real.
Did he really fall in love with it?
I don't know, man. But that's what it looks like. Like, that guy's weird. But yeah, the AI. You know, at what point does AI become so advanced that you can differentiate between it being artificial and being conscious?
Well, and if you think about it, the universe could be that part of that issue now too, right? Because part of the limitations that we have as a program, right? Because if that's what it is, right? We're not saying that's definitely what it is, because we don't know what's beyond that. You know, a lot of us don't know what's beyond that. You know, so that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, right now with the James Webb Telescope, we're getting a lot. We're getting views of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But again, you know, we're getting pictures back, so we're not getting rendered. Yeah. We're not getting full renderings of things, I guess.
Right.
And
the capacity of what we have, though.
Yeah. Because all we're getting back is pictures, you know? Yeah. And who's to say what it is?
Crazy.
Especially because the universe is expanding. So what if like just more and more of the universe is quote unquote being created, you know? Like there's just have you heard of the Fermi paradox? I think I might have talked about this on the
show.
Who? The Fermi paradox.
I might have, but I'm not sure.
The Fermi paradox is basically like why have we not encountered alien life forms? Mm-hmm. And one of the theories is because it is a simulation. There is no other life forms on Earth because we were literally just created to simulate certain events or certain things to see how humanity would react to certain things. So that's the reason why there are no aliens.
So the theory is that we are just okay. So there are humans, but we are just in the image of humans, right? This is also very religious, by the way. It sounds like because
creation.
We're in like we are. What do they say about in religion?
The God created us in
his image. There you go, that thing. So it very much like sounds very similar to that type of situation, even.
Yeah, and you know what? It can be.
Yeah.
There's just fucking religion. Look,
it's a whole other subject.
I try not to be disrespectful to people's religions.
Yeah.
But just I don't understand it.
Yeah.
It really is that. And growing up, I actually wanted to be a pastor.
Wow.
And I feel like that is what turned me into an atheist. Because reading the Bible and then reading it not as a holy book, but as to study it.
Yeah.
It was just like, well, none of this makes sense. And if it is real, God's kind of a dick. I'm not worshiping that.
I understand. And the people sometimes are dicks. You know?
Yeah.
You know, just a quick comment on that too. I just feel like sometimes people use their religion as a cop-out, you know, like for being dicks, you know, for being like a shitty person, you know, like I could say I don't perceive myself as a shitty person, right? But I also take accountability and responsibility for like the things that I do, you know, that might, number one, hurt somebody or, you know, blah, 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 right? But I don't just say that, you know, everything's going to be washed away from me, you know, and I feel like that's sometimes what happens with certain people who are religious, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, you know, when it comes to simulation theory, then maybe what people would see in the beginning was the beginning stages of simulation, you know, before it got ironed out, basically. Kind of like, okay, well, what if we do have these creatures out roaming around, you know? And then they're like, you know what, that doesn't make sense, let's reset it. And then people just remember those, or there are just there's residuals of these creatures left behind that weren't reset.
Well, and this literally happens in video games too.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So what if that also explains these myths?
Myths. English.
We speak it.
Yes, a little bit.
So again, you can't really test for it, but like I think it look, I don't think it's a thing, right?
Right.
But it's definitely a cool theory.
Yeah.
It's something that I feel like explains the paranormal, that explains deja vu, it explains dreams, it explains all of these things, right?
Yeah.
Because what if we are all just, because in the end we're all electrical impulses. There really is all we are.
Energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so there's also another game that I used to play. It's called Spore, and I don't know why this one didn't take off, but I think I do know why it didn't take off. Anyway, Spore, you started as like literally like just a cell, and then you had the option to become either like a what do you call it? Either you were like you would eat like you're either like a vegetarian or what do they call herbivore or like a carnivore, right? Like you had the options to kind of evolve based on the foods that you would eat or the other cells that you would eat if you were absorbing other cells or if you were absorbing plant life, things like that, right? And the more you kind of grew, you would develop different characteristics, like your mouth was a certain way, your claws, evolution. You're evolving through it, and that's why. So that was the idea. It did get really like the game was really interesting up until you get to like this like the space age for some reason. Like you just jump from like a prehistoric time to like space age, and it was just really weird jump that it took.
Jarring.
it was jarring because there was no in between.
Yeah.
You know, like it was just like now you're in space and you're a spaceship. You know, you're not even a creature anymore. You're a space. You became an alien race. And you just took off into space. It was just so easy. There was no in between, which is like what we're going through in real life, right?
No, but that does make sense, though. What if this is just to simulate evolution?
Yeah.
Like, this is just some scientists trying to say, hey, look, evolution is a thing.
Yeah.
And if we could start here and end here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There's a lot of I mean, we can even talk about like the Matrix, right? Like the Matrix is probably like the prime example of that simulation theory, right? Mm-hmm. Except in that world, the AI is taking over the world and just putting people into like battery packs, basically. Yeah. So, and if you didn't know that, I'm sorry. Spoiler. But it's
now I can't watch this dance version either.
but that movie was a great example of all the stuff that we're talking about. Like you said, deja vu, and it was crazy how like they always even explain deja vu in the movie. Like oh shit, like it's glitch in the Matrix.
Something's been reset.
Something's being reset, but there's also the agents are coming. You know, so get ready. You know, type of thing.
Because I think in what was reset was the doors. The doors are now walled, and the windows.
Yes,
everything got walled.
They couldn't escape, right? Yeah. Like in the first movie. So yeah, that's where it all came from, and you're just literally like, well, in that movie, you're more than just a brain. You're the body. You know, you're just a big battery pack is what they have you as. They create you just to be a battery pack. This is what the AI does. But it tries to explain all the different things. But there's also a woken world, right? Like a place where people exist without the AI.
Yeah.
So that's always been an interesting thing. There is a theory also of like, what if our brains are just like in a jar, you know, and we're just like, we're just picturing and remembering like none of this is real. It's just us remembering or not remembering or creating these ideas. We're a machine, you know. Essentially a machine, you know, like that's what our brains are perceived as sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
There was that Doctor Who episode, with the introduction of Clara, the first time we meet her.
Oh yeah.
How she's guiding the Doctor through all this, and then when he finds her, she's a Dalek.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Which was a really interesting episode. Clara was such an interesting character in a sense.
Mm-hmm. I think at the end, Moffat just loved that character way too much to have ended it the way it should have.
Yeah. But it was crazy. A lot of what happened to Clara in that episode as a Dalek.
Let's pause. You know, if you go through YouTube, you could always find all of these examples of glitches in the Matrix, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of them, I don't know how what's the word? Believable they are.
Okay.
You know, especially because of everything we can do now with technology and like all these deep fakes and just special effects, and everybody has access to all of these things. And there are some things that are extremely easy to do, or sometimes it really is the camera power. So, for instance, I try to watch a bunch of these videos.
Yeah.
And one I watched was someone kind of it looked like a ghost walking by a camera, right?
Okay.
What I've learned about these cameras is that so the cone of vision, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Everything that this camera is really picking up is kind of at the center, right? Mm-hmm. And the further it spreads out, the weaker those sensors are. Okay. So when it detects someone coming in, it kind of like if it's especially if it's a weaker resolution camera.
Okay.
It kind of looks like they're kind of forming, and you'll always see it. You'll always see it at the corner of the at the edge of the screen is when you'll see it kind of start looking like they're just materializing out of nowhere.
Oh yeah. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, wow. and what I was noticing about this is that the camera is in like night vision, right? Yeah. But there's a huge light in front of it too.
Right.
So that's totally gonna mess with the way things are reflected.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh look at this glitch in the Matrix. Like you see this person just materialize out of nowhere. Yeah. And it's like, well, no, that's not what's happening.
Right. Like there's a scientific reason behind it. Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
There was also this thing about a breathing forest. It looks really cool, right?
Yeah.
And it looks like the forest is breathing. Like you see the ground rising and going back down, right?
Yeah.
And scientists have talked about that too.
I'm like, yeah, isn't that like a real natural phenomenon?
Yeah.
Too?
So the way that works is that there's sometimes like this. The grass is kind of weaker and
creates like an air pocket.
Yeah. So yeah, what happens is when it's really windy, it moves the trees, right?
Okay.
And if it could be windy enough to where those trees are it's moving it by the roots. Mm-hmm. So like the roots are lifting the ground up and settling it down.
Yeah.
And it looks really cool.
Yeah. I've seen that clip. I mean, and like like plants are alive too. I'm not saying like they're like alive in like what we consider the traditional sense, right? But they also grow, like roots move. It's not like they just show up, like the roots expand, they grow. I have plants, they're changing colors and stuff like that. Like it's a thing that happens in nature.
I remember there was this experiment where they had this plant that they were dropping, right? And eventually, whenever they would drop the plant would start to close. So it's like, do they have memories? Is it just remembering what it's like to fall?
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
Don't they say that plants can even like feel when they're being like eaten by creatures and stuff like that? They
do say that.
Creepy.
But yeah, like back to these examples, like mirror reflections.
Mirror reflection.
Yeah, when you see like one person doing one thing and it looks like the reflection is doing something else.
Yeah.
But you can catch that on accident, because just because of the way light works.
Yeah.
It takes just that split second.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you can even go down to the way like phone calls work, right? Like if you're on a phone talking to somebody, like there's a delay sometimes even in what they're saying. You could literally be in the same room, right, hearing two different things, almost like two different things back to back, right? Because there's a delay in stuff, you were mentioning like the way cameras work, right? Or the way the cameras, it looks like something's just manifesting. I mean, your eyes do something similar to that too, right? Like there's a vanishing point.
Yep.
I learned this. Excuse me.
I learned this. Okay?
No, the coffee dries me out sometimes. Anyway. There's a vanishing point like thing, right? Like there's only so far you can see, and then things start to materialize because you're either moving closer. You would be moving closer to it, right? If it's materializing, it's not like it just pops out of nowhere, So there's real reasons these things happen, right? And this is also why flat Earth is not a real thing, So,
what?
But I'm just saying, like things are.
You don't know, man. The government's just hiding land.
Yeah,
behind Antarctica.
There's limitations to the way that we. There's limitations to the way. There's limitations to like the capacity and our understanding of. And this is similar to talk that we had about the UFO situation. Like there's things that we don't understand. And we can't perceive it because we don't understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, doppelgangers.
Yeah. I mean. People are gonna look like each other.
All right, so there is like this whole paranormal thing about doppelgangers. Have you heard about it?
No, tell me.
No. So they say that when you see yourself, that it's a bad omen. That it usually means you're gonna die.
Oh, okay.
And there's all these stories of people that have witnessed, and it's not just someone that looks like you; it's you in different settings. So there was a story about a teacher who would always lose her job because kids would be scared because they would see her and then they would see like herself appear next to her and be writing on the board next to her. Or
like while she was writing?
Yeah, while she's writing on the board, or she's talking to the kids and like they would see her sitting behind herself or something. Yeah. It's creepy.
What if it's her superpowers? No, well, and I feel like doppelgangers, like there's gonna be potential for you to look, like somebody else.
Look at Keanu Reeves.
What does he look like?
There's all these pictures of look, he's a vampire because there's this picture from the 18th century.
Yeah, and like time traveler people and that time travel supposedly too. It's kind of like the same thing. Like they always relate it to like time traveling, right? We could say that, but then there's so much. Like the percentage of something like this could happen, like you could have a twin out there that almost looks exactly like you, just maybe, in a different place. I don't know how else to say it,
No, yeah, your face is not exclusive to you. Let's be honest. Yeah. It's not. There's so many people that look like other people.
This is almost like the what was it called? Like Divergent Evolution, I think is what it was called. Anyway, it reminds me of the Pokemon thing. It reminds me of the Pokemon thing because this is what pissed me off about Pokemon recently. We talked about Diglett and Wiglet recently. So, like, they just ended. Was it called Divergent Evolution or was it called something? I don't remember what it was called exactly. Anyway, they grew up in similar conditions, but turned out to be different Pokemon. But they kind of look alike because of the conditions that they grew up in. You know, like it just kind of reminded me of that. So that's why I mentioned that. But yeah, like there's. There's possibilities that, just for various different reasons, that people could end up looking like each other. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of videos on TikTok about like glitches in Matrix and stuff like that. And I always like look at those videos. I'm like, this is such bullshit. They
look fake as fuck. Sometimes.
They look fake as fuck. Or like they show a person of like kind of smiling and then like stop smiling and then stops because they're taking a picture, mm-hmm. right? And then like, oh look, this person got caught up in the Matrix, right? Like or is looping in the Matrix, like it's a glitch in the Matrix. There you go. Where I'm like, what if she's just trying to take a selfie? And she did it like 20 times because
those influencers take millions of hundreds of thousands of pictures.
People
of
do
themselves.
that. Yeah, people do that. Like, because it's called editing. Like some people are fake at it, or like they get caught being fake at like smiling in a picture. Yeah, mm-hmm. Because they did it too many times. They're just standing there trying to take a really good selfie over and over.
I do follow this account called Influencers in the Wild.
Okay.
And all they do is like they record people trying to make videos or pictures, and it's pretty funny.
Kind of on that little subject too. It's funny when people get mad that other people interrupt their videos. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, they're like, there's like this. Recently, I saw this video of like these. I guess they're like K-pop artists. I don't know if they're artists. They're probably just like doing K-pop dances, and they're like in the middle of like a park.
Yeah.
And somebody comes in, and it's like they jump into the video and just be funny, right? And I'm like, and they're like, when you're trying to make a TikTok video, but somebody interrupts you, I'm like, then again, you're kind of interrupting. You're in public. You're kind of interrupting their piece at the same time. What if they don't want to see you do your TikTok video? But you're there in public. Rent a studio or something. But it's just funny to me. It's just funny to me.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Asimov's laws of robotics?
No.
You know what I called you. So there's three laws of robotics, right? Robot may not injure a human being.
I have heard this actually.
Or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm.
Yep.
Well, it's from iRobot.
It is from iRobot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Asimov is the writer of the...
If you don't stop calling me that, I'm going to fuck you up. No, just showing you.
A robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection doesn't conflict with the first or second law. And this just... I bring this up because we're talking about artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Where does it stop being artificial intelligence and become consciousness?
Right.
Like, when do we stop being robots?
Mm-hmm. Are we robots?
Are we robots?
Well, that's the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Life is inherently self-destructive.
Mm-hmm.
So to imagine that there is a civilization advanced enough that they created a simulation as advanced as what we're living in now can be hard to believe. But again, there are video games. There's one called No Man's Sky.
Okay. I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, and it started off actually with really bad reviews, but they say now with all the additions, it's a great game, and there's just so much. Yeah, there's so much you can explore and other worlds you can explore and go in and all that.
Yeah.
So I mean, if that can happen in video games now, what's to say that this isn't all made up? You know?
Yeah. So I looked up simulation theory, and I guess there's the simulation argument. And I thought I was reading it right now, and I thought it was pretty interesting, so I kind of wanted to mention it. But it says in 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom proposed a trilemma that he called the simulation argument. Despite the name, Bostrom simulation argument does not directly argue that humans live in a simulation. Instead, Bostrom trilemma argues that one of three unlikely seeming unlikely seeming propositions is almost certain to be true. So there's the three options, right? It says the fraction of number one, the fraction of human level civilizations that reach a post-human stage, which is what you're kind of mentioning right now, that is one capable of running high fidelity ancestor simulations is very close to zero. Mm-hmm. Right. Or number two, the fraction of post-human civilizations that are interested in running simulations of their evolutionary history or variations thereof is very close to zero. Or lastly, the third, the fraction of all people with our kind of experience that are living in a simulation is very close to one. So that's crazy. I'm just saying, like, he also breaks down the fact that, like, it's not a likely thing, you know.
But Elon Musk says it is.
You know, he's just, I think there's this guy that just says anything, you know, in a sense of like trying to get more people on his side, right? Like this goes back to also what they said about like fringe, people on the fringe, right? Like it's like, or what was it? I read something like, okay, the way in the face of like when your beliefs are challenged, right? Mm-hmm. That instead of accepting the fact that, what was it called? There was a word that this defines, that is being defined by what I'm saying. Yeah. In the face of challenge, you know, your beliefs being challenged, that instead of accepting the fact that your beliefs aren't real, mm-hmm. people end up trying to get more people involved with their beliefs so that they are validated. Their beliefs are validated by people in socialism, not socialism, people in social settings, right? So they create a bigger group in order to
the stupidity of the masses,
in order to validate themselves, right? So
like JFK coming back.
Yeah. Well, again, so, and there was a word, I can't remember, the word's on the tip of my tongue, but that word is defined by this, right?
Yeah.
But in the way that they get people to accept their ideas to validate themselves, mm-hmm. you know, and that's kind of what that sounds like, you know, like he's like just trying to get more people involved in his ideas so that, you know, so that he can validate himself. He's a smart person. There's no questioning that, right? But I do feel like there's a sense of manipulation in a sense as well.
I do feel like he's very. I just feel like he grew up being a loser, and he really wants
like a nerd.
Yeah, and he really wants people to like him.
Yeah. So he does abstract things that certain people are going to think are cool, you know. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Teslas personally, you know.
I don't much care for them.
Yeah.
I do want that robot though. I'm gonna fuck that robot. Okay?
You are.
Let's be honest. That's what's happening.
Yes, yeah. You probably have already fucked the robot.
I mean, look.
Or at least a machine of sorts. Vacuum.
I mean, look.
Water jets.
The way that vacuum was looking at me.
Not the Roomba. How does that work?
Kevin, okay?
Sounds correct.
Those bristles tickle your nuts.
Oh my god! What the fuck? And your butthole? Or what?
You're welcome.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but like I mentioned earlier, what if it is all just a simulation?
Yeah.
There's nothing we could do.
What do we do? Yeah, exactly. What do we do?
We're fucking live our life.
Yeah,
right?
Like your simulated life. You're welcome.
We're just here to simulate what happens with the effects of global warming, famine, nuclear winter, epidemics, pandemics, QAnon.
You know, the cool thing about, like, for example, the Matrix, right, is that I like the ideas of what they would say about when people are kind of breaking out of the Matrix and the reason they would break out of the Matrix. It's like it was like, for example, in one of the Animatrix, it was like this guy reached his more than his plateau. He surpassed his peak, right? He surpassed his peak of his ability to run, right? And so in the moment when he was racing and like he reached the limit. I mean, he reached his peak, right? It woke him up from the Matrix, right? Like he surpassed it. Yeah. So he did so great that he was able to take himself out of this.
So enlightened.
So great at what his skill was.
Yeah.
And and then so he broke out of the Matrix, and he's kind of like, you know, kind of in that state of mind that everybody else is in the Matrix, right? Like when they come out of the Matrix. But what ends up happening is somehow he does get pulled back into the Matrix because he's like the agents catch him.
Yeah.
And he even though he starts seeing like kind of like the simulation kind of breaking down, he gets reverted back, and it ends up being that like he actually reached his. He pushed himself too far to the point where like he broke his bones and stuff like that in the running. Like he fell and he damaged himself, and that's how he was pulled back into the Matrix. As like he was never able to actually get all the way out. But it's almost like it's becoming superhuman in a sense, you know. Like you're like they did that with various different characters in the story.
Like you're surpassing the limitations of the program
of the Matrix. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and it was so such a trip, and that's kind of even what I relate to like people's. I'm not saying that people are surpassing the limitations of a program if we are in a simulation, right? But more of like there's certain people that have almost like special abilities, you can say, right? Some people are extremely lucky, right? Like you can go to a casino and just win a ton of money, and some people will never be able to do that, right? There's some people who are more intuitive or maybe empathetic to other people, right? And they can even almost like think similarly to how somebody else might think, you know? So it's always like those, the capacity.
But it all depends on when you were born, right? Like what month?
The zodiac, yes. Yeah. No. It depends on, see, and again, this is where you forget about the zodiac. What I told you about the zodiac. It's not just one thing that contributes.
You know why it's not just one
sign, it's everything.
Yeah, you know why it's not? Because they have to cover all of the
and
all of the possibilities.
I use, and we're, you know, since we're okay. Maybe this could be a whole different episode aside from simulation. But I do believe that certain people have certain skills that obviously that
like Liam Neeson.
I use this as an example. I used to have a coworker. I used to do sales, you know that, right? And this, like the way I would sell is very different than the way other people who are kind of sharky would sell, you know? Shark is a term that we use in the sales industry for somebody who doesn't care, right? Like they'll just take all your money in a sense. That's how I put it, at least, you know? Somehow this guy would always get people to buy him food. not even, mind you, they're there to buy cell phones, right? Because we used to sell. This guy used to get people to buy him food. Like he would just tell, like, hey, you know, I'm kind of hungry, and I'm like, and people would go buy him food, and I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, I would never ask a customer to buy me food, you know?
Yeah.
He did. He got food. They would bring him food on a regular basis, and it was just people he met those days. That was his skill. Like he was able to manipulate people into buying stuff that he wanted them to buy, i.e. his
Such
food.
A Capricorn.
He was a Leo, actually. So you would fucking know. Leo. But no, it's just one of those things. Like it's about those skills, right? Like if you think about The Sims, if we think about The Sims as a simulator because of The Sims, right? You could choose skills that you could have in that game. There was even a selling skill, like when they released Open for Business, which was one of my favorite add-ons to the game. Like you could hard sell, you could soft sell, you could you could it was just different selling skills that you would just add to your character that would make them better in a certain sense. So you know, simulations, you know, in the Matrix that happens, right? When Keanu Reeves learns how to
Kung Fu.
Yes.
He learns how to Kung Fu.
Yes. Yeah. Crazy.
Whoa. No, I mean, look, this is very interesting. It really is. Yeah. It's entertaining.
It's scary, though, at the same time. I have to say.
What can I do?
Well, yeah, what can you do? But also, the reason I say that, though, is because some people could, and some people have been known to do this, they could
cults.
They could take it overboard, even like where they think, well, I'm just going to come back to life, you know, and do stuff that they shouldn't do. That stuff has happened. There's a Black Mirror episode about that too. They thought they're in a video game. So yeah.
All right.
Turns out they were in a video game.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Spoilers.
No, I mean, look, like, what do you guys think? Are we in a simulation? Is this all real? Is this all just created by your mind?
Find out next week.
We'll tell you.
We have the answers.
We know for sure.
Oh my god.
All right, that's our show for this week. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm good.
All right, guys, have a week.
Bye.